Akshay Oberoi, thank you for making on How I Made It. A big thank you from the
Thank
entire team of E Times here. How are you doing?
Alright, fantastic. What a pleasure it's to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
बताइए अक्षय, बताइए 2002 से आपने जो सफर शुरू किया है और to be very honest with you, I am getting to hear more about you only now. Why has it taken
Yeah.
so long? Why has it had so many speed breakers? How did you keep your well-being all the while?
It's funny. We just went through this global pandemic, and this pandemic is like a call to introspect on a lot of stuff, about the last 10 years, about how life has gone, about generally. So I use this time a lot to look back and, kind of think about exactly the question you're asking me. कि मतलब इतना 10 साल 12 साल क्यों लग गए? मेरी पहली film actually in Hindi cinema was in 2010. The 2002 film, of course, I was a child actor then. But, it takes a long time. If you're not from the business and people don't know you, up industry में आपकी परवरिश नहीं हुई है, it takes a while to prove yourself. And if you look at actors, in all kinds of industries across the world, it usually takes them 10, 12 years of constantly working and honing their craft to get somewhere. There are a lucky few people who break through very early. I wasn't one of them. But somewhere I always knew that I was a good actor. As I don't mean to sound arrogant about it, but there was some belief in myself. There was always some kind of trust that मुझे ये काम आता है. And there was always, I knew there was a deep passion, I tell my wife Jyoti all the time, I think passion makes people do some really crazy things, which is like sticking around this career for 10 years. So I knew I was really passionate. I knew that I had, the chops because I had been working and I had done variety of different roles and I kept, pushing myself. So I knew I was getting somewhere. And I think those are the only things that carried me through, because there's no reason why somebody should have had the tenacity I had for the last 10 years. I mean, anybody else should have just got up and walked off and said, Chodo yaar, who wants to struggle like this? But I think I love this job so much that I was like, I'll do anything to sort of make it.
I said 2002 because you were around 17, 18 that time, and आजकल तो स्टार बनने के लिए या एक्टर बनने के लिए लोग 16-17 से ही शुरू हो जाते हैं. They join horse riding classes, they join dancing classes, they join acting classes and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I had gone to Johns Hopkins and I'd studied theater arts and I'd studied economics. And then I went to New York for a bit. Before that, I was in Kishore Namit Kapoor. I think that might have been around 2002, studying acting and doing all the things you're talking about, prepping myself for an Hindi film career. So you're right. I mean, if I look back, I have been acting since the early 2000s. I think 2000 is when I started acting. So, काफी मतलब 20 साल हो गए.
So tell me, you were called for several auditions. You must have gone up to producers and said, okay, do you have a role? How was that struggle period? क्या चल रहा
Oh man, it's so funny. आप पूछ रहे हो, मुझे हंसी आ रही है सोच के. यार मैं एक पोर्टफोलियो लेके घूमता था, उसमें मेरी तस्वीरें थी, and I had gotten them shot by the great Jagdish Mali the first time, and then several others had shot it as time went on. But that portfolio I'm talking about was shot by Jagdish Mali, and मैंने एक resume print किया था मेरा कि I've done theater with Makaran Deshpande. I have a theater in degree. I've done X number of plays. I put all that in a little packet that I made, and in that packet were like 10 pictures of me and that resume, and it had my phone number and my email. And I literally used to go and just knock on people's doors and drop it off. And I mean, nobody would call, but I would do that regularly. Everywhere I found out कि यहाँ पे कुछ production house है, because उस वक्त तो casting director थे भी नहीं. In the early, I'm talking 2008, there were no casting directors as such yet. So it was just me hanging around with this thing and giving it to people and hoping. Eventually, a guy named PK Gupta from Rajshri Productions called me, and then I went for an audition, and then I got that part. That's a separate thing. But I think I've done probably over 1,000 auditions in Bombay. That would be an understatement. I think I've probably done more than 1,000, in this lifetime or like in this journey. Which is so funny to think about those initial days of struggle, though.
1,000 auditions में, I mean, बहुत सारे ना हुए. I mean, I guess
the
number is too high. So
Yeah.
what were they telling you?
You get that classic thing कि not fit, not fit, not fit, इसके लिए भी not fit, आपकी आंखें ऐसी हैं, या आपकी नाक बहुत शार्प है, या आपकी आवाज ये ऐसी है, या we're not looking with this, we're not looking with that. There's so many permutation combinations that it takes for you to land a role when you're not been referenced into the role. It really takes up a certain amount of things with the directors, like, no, I want this particular person, unless you have a box office. If you bring a box office to a performance, people kind of let things slide, because then they say, let's give him a chance, he brings us audience. When you don't have a box office backing you up, then it's literally just your talent, and literally just, do you fit the part or not? And in those 1,000 auditions, as you rightly said, I think मैंने 16-17 फिल्में की हैं, 8-10 वेब सीरीज की हैं, तो कितना वो 24, 26-27 projects I've done altogether. If you cut the short films, maybe 30. So out of 1,000 auditions, that's the work I got. And I think that's the general way it works, and then one film leads to another film, and it leads to more work, and it leads to other things, and then people start seeing that, okay, he can do a variety of things, and then start casting you, which is finally where I've arrived. But yeah, it took that much time to sort of prove that.
Because that Rashri film which you mentioned, I think इसी लाइफ में 2010, उसके बाद भी 4 साल लगे to get visa.
4 साल, yeah, correct. यार वो चली नहीं, बिल्कुल भी चली नहीं वो फिल्म यार, और वो इतनी बड़ी प्रोडक्शन हाउस, इतना बड़ा प्रोडक्शन हाउस, सूरज प्रजातिया, मुझे लगा तो मतलब पहली फिल्म में मैं छा गया. That's what I had felt, because it was like, who comes from a theater background and lands a leading role in a Rajshri Productions right off the bat. Luckily my work was well received, so I wasn't completely broken, but phone नहीं आया किसी का. So I went back to Max sir, Ans Theatre Group with Prithvi, and kept working, because I knew the one thing, I knew कि स्टार बनना नहीं बनना मेरे हाथ में नहीं है, but अच्छा एक्टर बनना मेरे हाथ में है. So I kept trying to polish that, and not losing hope. Then finally Bijoy saw me somewhere and cast me in Pizza, and we'd actually done a TV show together called MTV Rush. And after MTV Rush, she kind of offered me Pizza, and then the rest is history. I think once that happened, I was somewhere on the map. वो फिल्म भी चली नहीं उतनी, but at least my work was starting to catch some traction.
You were somewhere down the map, you say, but were you happy with Piku in 2015, Fitur in 2016, Kalakandi in 2018? Were you happy with these roles? Did people call you and say, I mean, let's not talk about the close people which you have, but did someone call you from someone, who never called you before and said, okay, wow, did that kind of recognition come along?
Yeah, it's shocking. You wouldn't believe it, but it's something that I would advise all young actors, that if you have a chance to work in a good film with a good director, no matter how much the screen time is, do it. Because in Piku,
which is why I asked the question. Yeah.
No, it's a very, very, very good question. Sujoy Ghosh had called me after watching Piku, and वो इतना सा रोल है यार, मतलब it's a blink and you miss. But directors पहचान लेते हैं कि उनको पता चल जाता है. You don't need to do much. They know, they study, know cinema की बारीकी जानते हैं. So Sujoy had actually called me post that and said, I really liked what you did there, and it was like a छोटू सा role. So, and that was Sujit Sarkar's film. So, and then of course, Gattu's, Abhishek Kapoor's film, Fitur led to Gurgaon. Because I worked on Fitur, the line producer of Fitur was Ajay Rai, Jar Pictures, and he liked me in Fitur while we were shooting, and him, Mukesh Chabra and Shankar Raman offered me Gurgaon, which I think is the first film that people started saying ki, I can, ye banda act kar sakta hai, and so I think that's the advice I would give everyone. Just it doesn't matter how big or small the role is. You have to get out there and keep doing it, and not be so caught up in I should be the poster. वो तुम्हारे दिन आएंगे, but you have to be ready for them.
So Shujit was very clear with you that Piku में बहुत छोटा role है. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're also saying in a way that यहाँ पे कोई favors नहीं करता. Are you saying that?
बिल्कुल भी. I am saying that nobody does anybody any favors. I think it's ये art है, but this is an art made for commerce. ये धंधा at the end of the day. So directors are looking for people who have the talent, but a producer is also looking for people who can get people into the theater. And these things go hand in hand, especially nowadays with such an involved audience. So I think I think you have to start somewhere. I think sometimes in Bollywood, because of the olden days, how things have gone. Pehli picture mein itni popularity, itna bada star. Look, honestly, if I'm a heart patient, I don't want the doctor to be the cardiovascular surgeon to be I be his first patient. I want him to have done 1,000 or eight, at least 100 surgeries before he touched me. I find the same thing about acting. You cannot, no matter how much of a genius you are when you're born, the only way to get good at this job is to keep doing it. It's like anything. It's like singing or dancing or playing the guitar. You have to keep doing it. So I find this whole जो पहले से हमने बनाए रखा है ना कि पहले एक दो फिल्मों में आपको स्टार बन जाना चाहिए नहीं तो मुश्किल होता है. I think that's all rubbish, and I'm so glad it's slowly dying. And I think people like me are kind of an example of that finally dying off. Because now I think people are, especially because of OTT, I think the audience is just looking for a good performance and a good story. I don't think they care who's the star and what how big things are anymore. It's just how effectively, how authentically you're telling the story. So yeah, I mean, it's a long-winded answer for your question, but that's why people don't do each other favors here, because it's not a place like that.
But I need to dissect this further, because we were talking about Piku 2015, and I take you a little back again. 2016 Fitur, 2018 Kala
Yeah.
Kandi were totally washouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, most of my films have been washouts, yeah. I mean, Pizza was a washout, Isi Life Mein was a washout, Kala Kandi was a washout, Bomberia was a washout, Jungli is a washout. We can go all day. But that's not the point, Gurgaon was a washout. Although Gurgaon finally got attention thanks to Netflix and Hotstar. But that's just the way it goes. I have nothing to. I mean, I didn't direct the films, I didn't make them, I didn't produce them. I acted in them because I believed in them. Somewhere, maybe the marketing went wrong on some of them. Maybe the kind of positioning went wrong in some of them. Because actually, they're genuinely good films, and they've all been well received by critics and the media at least, and whoever small number of audiences whoever's watched them. But those are the films that sort of made me who I am as an actor. And those are the films that got me whatever credibility I have in the industry came from that work. So for me, they're gems. For me, they're diamonds. For me, they're very precious, things. So I don't see it as a negative. In fact, because I've seen so much failure in the initial part of my career, I think that's what made me, and now I feel almost fearless. And that's why I do the work I do now, which sometimes people ask me, "Tu aise roles kyun karte rehta hai?" It's because it's made me fearless, because I've seen so much rejection and so much failure at the box office. But because somewhere my work was always appreciated, I always had some confidence, and I think now I've been pushed into this sort of place where I'm not concerned with the result at all. All I want is to be the best actor in this lifetime I can be. And that's the journey now I'm on. And that's what I'm after. And I think these are the films that made that happen.
You said यहाँ favors नहीं होते हैं, but still, when your movies were not doing well, did you get a notion that star kids are favored, they are given more, they have more access, they are given more chances, they run away? अगर एक नहीं चली तो दूसरा चांस मिलेगा, दूसरी नहीं चली तो तीसरा चांस मिलेगा. वो आपको कभी वो आपको कभी काट रहा था?
यार मतलब it happens, and it happens everywhere. अगर मेरा रेस्टोरेंट है या मेरा कोई धंधा है तो मैं अपने बच्चे को ही दूंगा ना वो धंधा. I'll ask him first कि तुम्हें ये धंधा लेना है नहीं तो मैं बेच दूंगा. It's just the way it works. And I think the only way I've survived is by being a really positive human being. So for me, it didn't bother me. I just know it existed. I knew that happens. I will not lie and say it doesn't happen. Of course it happens. But I never used it as a thing of feeling bitter or sad. I was always like, yeah, this is the reality of the situation. Now, if I can either sit here and complain about it and say, man, why is it like this? Or I can try and go make a difference in my own career. And I chose to do the latter because, for me, it was do or die always. I don't come from this extremely wealthy background. I have, I pay for my own things and I'm financially independent. So I had to. I had no two ways about it, you know. And this is the line of work I chose. So I started looking at this profession as a job, you know, and less as a place of entitlement, and less as a place of like, you know, I look a certain way, I act a certain way, I should be king. It's okay. That's not what happened. You know, you got to know how much of the world you want. And I think I'm very clear about how much of it I want. So, and there's room for everyone. Yeah. You know, I hope more star kids come and more. I just hope they're good. You know, if they're good, they'll stick around. You know, I have no problem with star kids. Just be good and work hard, because now the competition we're in a whole new playing field now. And I want this industry to grow more and more and more and more, which I can see it happening. You know, I want people all over the world to watch Hindi cinema. And the only way that will happen is if we have better actors, better writers, better directors, and we're on our way. So that's what I don't have any issue as long as everyone works hard.
So you're saying it's now going to become a level playing field, which means that now with the pandemic, now post the pandemic, both are going to be weighed on the same scale, the outsider and the insider?
I think that it's going to be a level playing field. I mean, I might be looking at it with rose-tinted glasses. I might be naive about it. But I feel that the audience has shown us during this pandemic that they are interested in fresh talent. They want fresh stories. I mean, look at the way they've lapped up these web series, yeah. I mean, whether it's Mirzapur or even High, the one that I did, or Scam 1992. I mean, they've just watched it in huge numbers and really celebrated the talent, you know, and really recognized that, you know, these are good actors and there's good writing here. So I think the audience is now going to put pressure on the industry to do that. And I think they'll still go watch, you know, Star Son being launched, but that Star Son will be looked at with a lot more scrutiny than perhaps before.
You also have the perspective of an insider, and I'm referring to your close friend Imran Khan. How do you see it from there? What did he tell you when you are sitting with him over a cup of tea? वो क्या बोलते हैं?
यार उसका
पहले
बड़ा
भी वो आपसे
मुश्किल
क्या बोलते थे, क्या बातें करते थे? Because when his movies also, you know, decreased in number.
Yeah. You know, Imran started on a very big note. You know, Amir Khan, Jaane Tu, itni achhi film. Phir, you know, the whole rivalry with Ranbir at the time. There was a huge media hype around him and a lot of PR around him. So it was very difficult for him to advise me ever, because, you know, we were starting, you know, what was right for him would not be right for me. Like, it was right for me to go and do Piku and go do Fitur and go, you know, try my hand at a horror film like Pizza and do all kinds of, you know, things, and then go back to theater. It was right for me. Those things would have been completely wrong for a you know, huge star like him at that time. So besides sort of just, I mean, we've always, a large part of our friendship since childhood has been discussing films. Besides actually discussing movies and performance and writing, there wasn't ever really advice. I mean, he's my best friend in the world. I talk to him about everything. You know, he knows my entire journey. But from an advice perspective, it was always very difficult for him to give me any, because we were always coming at this profession from two different, मतलब वो वहाँ से आ रहा था, मैं यहाँ से आ रहा था. You know, it was completely different journeys. So he couldn't have advised me. Of course, one-off things here and there. I've called him and asked him what he thought about stuff, but that's just basic things like how I call my father to ask him, you know, what he thinks. But yeah, other than that, I always found it, I think it was very, very difficult for him to give me any advice. There's no example for what I was doing, you know. There are now, you know, you have Vikrant Massey, you have other people who are examples of, you know, sort of just working, and then sort of breaking through some way. पहले तो वो exist ही नहीं करता था ना, तो मुश्किल था उसके लिए, मतलब, to give me any advice.
ये दोस्ती शुरू कैसे हुई, कहाँ हुई?
यार 2001 या 2 में हम किशोर नमित कपूर एक्टिंग लैब में हमने पढ़ाई की थी साथ में. And you know, I was very clear कि मुझे एक्टर बनना है. He was kind of like an actor / a director and a writer, and it was immediate. The day I met him, I knew that ये तो मेरा दोस्त बनेगा. And unbelievably, you know, whatever 18 years later, so much has happened. You know, so much he's been through, I've been through, marriages, children, all of that, and we're still, you know, thick as hell. And you know, I always thank God for that Kishore and Amit Kapoor acting lab because I met him, you know, and he's such a huge part of me and my life. And so, yeah, that's where it started.
But when his films are declining, and you know the rough road perhaps more closer, did you go and advise him sometimes?
You know, I think we've had a lot of chats, you know, and it was, again, it really came down to, I think he saw it very clearly that, you know, the kind of passion it takes for acting, because I think his interest always lay more in direction. You know, I think maybe he saw me, or maybe he's a very smart kid. So, you know, he's not caught up in the wrong things. You know, his priorities are always very clear. He's not वो लालची नहीं है, you know, and उसको लगा कि नहीं यार ये हो गया, मतलब किया मैंने, मजा आया, but अब मेरे लिए नहीं है, you know, and he kind of just shut the door on it, and so there was no need to tell him anything, and I think that was great. You know, he followed his instinct, he followed his heart, and not a lot of people have the ability to do that. You know, a lot of people get very scared, लोग क्या सोचेंगे, मतलब खानदान क्या सोचेगा, because he comes from such a big, you know, background. So I think he handled it very gracefully because he's a graceful person, and there was no need to really tell him anything. I think he just sized it up. He realized that, you know, what it takes to do what he was doing, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to put energy elsewhere.
When did he tell you that
you know, I can't specifically remember, but somewhere, I think if Katti Batti was his last film, I think somewhere prior to the release, he had kind of figured out that, you know, I'm not getting a kick out of this. And look, the thing is, acting is such a difficult profession. You know, so much rejection, so much heartache. It's like, you know, actors wear their resume on their skin and walk around. Everyone knows ki, you know, I don't know if I meet a banker, I don't know what position he's at, how much money he's making, who he's dating, where he sleeps, where he lives. Unfortunately, with us, everything's out there. हमारे माथे पे लिखा होता है कि how well are you doing? And I think he just didn't have the, you know, I think he realized that, you know, you really need a deep amount of love for acting. Not that he didn't enjoy the process, but I think somewhere around then, I think right before the release, he'd kind of figured that piece out. I didn't know he was going to quit, but I had a thought ki, you know, now he'll probably walk away. It's not to say he'll never, I mean, no, quitting is one thing. Never say never. Maybe one day he'll wake up and say ki mujhe ek interesting role mila, I want to try it, you know. I hope he does. Maybe he might. But for now, I think that's...
But he told you somewhere around Katti Batti, that's what you're saying, yeah.
I think before the release of it, yeah, if I can remember correctly. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I think 3-4 saal to ho gaye.
What made Akshay Oberoi go into web space?
You know, I had quickly realized that the films I was getting, which I loved, you know, Gurgaon, Lal Rang, Kala Kandi, Pizza, they're good films, and I think I had really interesting characters in them, you know. I got to play Desi Heartline characters, I got to do a variety, thriller, horror, love story, all that. But they were so far and few between, you know. एक लाल रंग बनती थी, फिर 6 महीने बाद एक दूसरी फिल्म आती थी, मतलब it was such a gap. And मैं इतना भूखा एक्टर हूँ ना कि मैं, and I knew कि देखो, I don't have anything going for me. I don't have anyone making movies for me. I don't have a huge PR machinery behind me. So the only way I can break anything is if I work so hard that people you just can't ignore me. And right then the OTT space was opening up. And since I was already an avid watcher of OTT and you know, this kind of content, मैं छलांग मार दिया. मैंने कहा यार ये तो इतने रफ्तार से चीजें बन रही हैं, ऐसे अलग-अलग चीजें बन रही हैं, मैं ऐसे आंख बंद करके घुस गया. And I'm so happy I did, because the kind of work I've been able to do in the last 3 years, you know, it's been unbelievably satisfying from an actor perspective, you know. So thank God for this OTT thing. Yeah, it's really a game changer.
Which was the first show that gave you the deepest satisfaction? Okay, now this is what I want to do. I'm here. I have reached somewhere.
Great question, yeah. I think it would be Siddharth Anand and Mamta Anand's Flesh, directed by Danish Aslam. I think I had been through a journey and then landed on that project. I think Gurgaon had released. People started saying that, okay, he's not just a chocolate boy, he can do a variety of things. And then Flesh kind of showed up because of on the back of Gurgaon. And it was this really terrifying, mean, hardcore character जिसमें मेरा look भी एकदम अलग है, और मैंने बांग्ला भी बोला है थोड़ा सा उसमें. So it was like this actor's delight, you know. And it was the first time that I went on a set, and I literally said to myself, stop caring about what people say about this, whether it's critics, whether it's the audience. Stop worrying about how many people will watch it. ये तुम्हारे हाथ में नहीं है. Put all your energy into this amazing character you've gotten. And that entire shoot was just like this complete high, you know, because I was doing something that I knew was so different, and not every actor is trusted with a part like that. You know, especially actors who look like me. I think I looked like a very conventional, you know, romantic hero in Bollywood. I think that's what people would tag me as. So if I, you know, landing up in flesh and playing that kind of a, you know, hardcore flesh trader who's killing people left, right, and center, was just extremely exciting. And that's really what I'm after, is doing things that are so far from me as an actor. I mean, I would hate to play myself. So I think Flesh was the start of that.
People are also talking about your performance in our MX Player show High. Tell me, how did it pan out for you?
You know, again, I would like to credit Shankar Raman's Gurgaon for that, because Nikhil Rao, the director of High, he saw Gurgaon and he called me up and he called me to his office, and I was shooting a couple of things at that time, and I was sort of lost. You know, I think I was shooting Inside It Season 3, I'm a part of now. I think I was shooting that, and I was shooting something for Balaji. And, you know, I was looking for something really offbeat again. You know, I think I really get my excitement when somebody tells me something that I've never heard before, you know. And he called me to his office in Bandra. And I remember standing up in that office and saying, Nikhil, मैं इस office में छोड़ के नहीं जा रहा हूँ जब तक तू मेरे को sign करता है. Because I knew here it was something, again, very, very different, you know. Forget how people will receive it, will people watch it. Sometimes चीजें अच्छी बनती है, but उसको promote नहीं किया जाता है. So I'm very happy the way it was promoted. I'm very happy the way it was received in terms of the numbers of, you know, viewership of people watching it. But again, those are secondary things, you know. Mostly I approach work with, you know, what the experience of that work is. And this experience was unparalleled. I mean, Jamik Films, the producer, again, MX as a producer, the director, the cinematographer, who's KU Mohanan, just technically superb, yeah, this project. It's like one of those dream projects that, you know, I feel like not only was the content good, but the direction was so good. I was challenged. So just a complete project in every way.
Well, you're now high on your career, but tell me, through this entire journey, do you do it now? And did you do it before? Say, call up producers and ask for a role?
Yeah, I do it all the time. I did it at the start. I do it now. There is no shame in asking for work. I mean, I came up that way. There used to be a list of directors I used to message constantly when I first started, and I was a nobody. And some of them used to respond, some of them didn't. And I still do it. If I hear about a challenging role somewhere, a role I really want to be a part of, I show up. I show up and I say, hi, remember me? मैंने इतना ये काम किया हुआ है. And I try and prove to them that, look, I can do this job. You know, I'm not just, you know, I think part of the problem with me is that I look a certain way. And sometimes people say that, yaar, ye aisa role nahi kar payega. And I've been trying so hard in the last few years of my career to do things that are offbeat and different to prove that. But sometimes still I need to pick up the phone and remind people, you know, and say, I have this ability. And so there is no shame in it. मैं हमेशा करता हूँ और करते रहूँगा.
I don't think there's anything wrong in that. If you're very hungry for a role, it's so crowded out there. I mean, there's nothing wrong in saying, hi, I'm here.
Yeah, as you rightly said, it's so crowded. I'm glad you agree with me. I mean, I think some actors feel a bit of an ego about it. कि नहीं यार मैं मतलब भीख नहीं मांगूंगा. But इसमें भीख की बात नहीं है. You know, this is you know, I love this job. I'll do anything to get an interesting role. You know, the most exciting thing of life is to play an interesting part. And for that, if I have to message somebody and say, hi, you know, think about me for the role, I'll do it any day of the week.
Crowded से याद आ रहा है मुझे, crowded parties. Do you try to, you know, look out for invitations, or maybe when you get them, you run into them, you meet producers and say, hi, I'm here there?
Yeah, Vicky, I think my biggest weakness in life is how bad I am at this party scene. While I'm good at a professional setting in the sense that I will message a director and I'll go to their office and I'll introduce myself and I'll say I'm so and so, and if you haven't seen my stuff here, these are the things I think you should watch. I'll do all of that. I'll try and sell myself as much for a role or a part, but to show up at a party and then grab somebody's attention, I've always found that very strange, because I'm always wondering, are they relaxing? Are they here to have a good time and a drink and to socialize with their fraternity? And I never want to bother them in that setting. I also think I'm a little afraid of crowded places. Before I leave for a party, Jyoti always, has to face the 2 hours or 3 hours of heart palpitations I have before I walk out the door. And I'm like, Jyoti, मैं कुछ बहाना देके निकल जाऊँ क्या? And she'd always be like, just go. And she tries to kick me out the door because she knows कि मैं अगर उसने बोल भी दिया ना कि अच्छा ठीक है रुक जा, मैं नहीं जाऊँगा फिर. I think I think that a lot of actors are actually introverts, and I think it's easier for me to play a part, play a character, and not be me. When it comes to me being Akshay Oberoi, I find it very difficult. But to be in front of a camera playing a different character, I find that very easy. At a party, I don't have a mask. I'm me. So I find I get very awkward. And, I think that's why I have such few friends. I have 5 or 6 friends, but I've known them for 20 years. And they know me in and out. I know them in and out. And I invest a lot in those relationships. So I find it very difficult to do this whole party thing, And while I'm talking to you, I realize there is something I should work on. But, it'll take me time. It's a practice.
Uncomfortable in a crowd?
I think so, yeah. I think so. As I said, I think I'm an introvert, and I get very awkward, and I get very like, people are so fancy and they have the right things to say at the right time, and they dress so well, and they're so good at meeting each other, like, they've known each other for years. I can't do that. If I don't know somebody, I have a very tough time making it feel like, we're, I have a 20-year-old relationship. And certain actors are fantastic at it. I watch them at parties and admire the way they're able to kind of work a room. But I think I'm just not great in crowded places.
To conclude, tell me about Jyoti, your wife. In this entire journey, was she always supportive, or were there times when she said, "नहीं यार, कोई और profession कर लो"?
Yeah, that Jyoti is. She's like one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life. You can't break her. And एक बार उसने commitment कर दी ना, वो खुद की नहीं सुनती. She's that type. She's so clear. She's such a sharp person. We've known each other for 16, 17 years. Like a little less than half our lifetimes. It's or a little more than half our life. It's insane how long we've known each other. And the one thing I know about her is that she's a very practical, sorted human being. So there might have been times that I have been like, यार मैं इतना frustrated हूँ because ये picture नहीं चली, वो project जो मैं करने वाला था वो मेरे हाथ से चली गई, तो मैं क्या करूँगा? मतलब I'm done playing the game. I love acting, but I'm done playing the game of this career. She's always been the one who's been like, sat me down and said, listen, you have what it takes. Follow your passion, follow your dream. She also knows me to be a very fixated person, and I am like that. If I'm working on something, I can't think of anything else. I just, I get obsessed with it, and then I fixate on it, and then until I achieve it, I don't leave it. And she knows that about me. So she's like, if there's anyone that can deal with the rejection and failure of an acting career and still make it, it's you. So just keep at it, because that's what you want, and she's been my rock through this entire journey. I feel like if I didn't have her, I might have been broken. I might have left. I might have been lying somewhere without, a hope. It's thanks to her and her support and her love that I've sort of been able to walk out the door each day and say, okay, I've got this. I'll make it one day, So God bless her. Yeah.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Akshay. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you. Thanks for the great questions. And I really hope we get a chance to do this again.